Gabriel Harris's book, The Language of Yen. And she asks you to start in any shape that feels the kindest to you in this moment. Utilize any props that help support your body, your mind, your emotions. And as you settle in, uncover the kindness that lies within you. This is the most important act that we can do, for it spreads outwards and affects others' life. And within that kind space, that sharing of the kindness, that's where peace lies. So as you settle in, soften into that kindness. Settle in to the compassion. The Buddhists say that when we suffer misfortune, two arrows fly. The first arrow is the actual event, and the second arrow is our reaction to it, our suffering. And we all have sharp arrows that pierce our heart. Injury, loss, betrayal, sickness, misplaced comments can all fly at us unannounced and with fury. Now, the first arrows, they're unavoidable. They're what we call life. But how we choose to react to the first arrow can become the cause of further suffering. Maybe we create a story about how things should be. Perhaps we feel sorry for ourselves. Perhaps we lash out or ruminate without end on how it all should be. And in the storehouse of our mind, we welcome and dance with negative self-talk, like an ally to take us deeper into the darkness. Yoga reminds us to be gracious toward our day-to-day struggles. The kindest, most charitable way to care for others is to bring self-awareness to our second arrow, our reaction, by embracing and acknowledging how we feel with humanity and with compassion. in this shape that nurtures, that supports us, that invites us to observe the kindness that we offer to ourselves. Follow 5 more rounds breath. And then in the mind's eye, start to formulate a picture of a posture or a shape that you have a complicated relationship with. One that isn't so comfortable. And that brings you to the edge, to the brink of that uncomfortableness. When you have that image formulated in mind, make your way there. Again, setting up, making it accessible, making it safe for you to explore. There's no right or no wrong way to choose this next shape. There's no right or wrong way to support yourself in this problematic posture. And as you settle into it, watch for that second arrow. Watch for how suffering arises. Watch for your reaction. The Yoga Sutras by Patanjali, a little guideline, or a really fat guideline, it's big, for how yogis respond, how yogis react, how yogis live day to day. There's a concept about ahimsa, which translates roughly to non-harm. Ahimsa asks us to restrain against violence or harm towards others. It's this basic act of being kind. Now, it's a pretty easy concept when we apply it to our treatment of other people. But it goes way beyond that and looks at our thoughts and our deeds and our actions towards ourselves. And if we turn this restraint, this non-harm around, we come again into that concept. We begin to understand that to live your life bathed in kindness towards yourself first, that action naturally seeps out into your family, into your community, into your world. So as you notice the reaction, it's the second arrow to the uncomfortableness of this shape. Perhaps you send kindness to yourself, kindness to the body, kindness in thoughts, kindness in the emotions that arise. And choose to linger in that kindness for 5 more rounds of breath. And then as your 5th breath finishes, releases, escapes from the body. And very mindfully, start to make your way out of that shape. Feel free to spread a blanket across the short, long edges of the mat. And then safely make your way onto your belly. That blanket can support the hips, the body. We'll come to rest on our belly, maybe even stacking the hands and making a pillow for a cheek or for a forehead or the jaw. Take the next couple of moments just to breathe here, to observe any effects from those 2 shapes that you chose. Notice in the rebound any changes and fluid shifts of energy. Maybe there's stretching of the skin. Maybe you react to the idea of covering yourself in kindness and ahimsa. And then as the sensations subside, start to bend the knees, floating feet up toward the ceiling. You might add a little sway of the feet side to side. And then move through the ankles, rotating around, articulating the sensations, the movements within the feet, moving into the toes, finding space in between the toes. And then invite the feet to make circles or ovals as you shift the hips side to side. Remembering perhaps to take those circles in both directions. And then set the feet back down on the mat. Our next shape is half frog, Ardha Mandukya. We're going to add a little variation here, but let's start with the first. Slide the left knee out to the side. Let that left foot be comfortable. You can bring it in a little bit closer to the midline, especially if the ankle feels bony on the floor. This is our first variation. We'll soften here for about 5 rounds of breath. Knowing you can always readjust the hands, you can let the body become comfortable, arms and torso. I know I said originally 5 breaths, but let's linger here a little bit longer. Letting the body become heavy. Soften into the support beneath you. Soften into the stillness, into the quiet. As I offer variations in this shape, know that they are not required. Just different ways to experience the stillness and the quiet. And if at any point you take a variation that doesn't work for you, back out, go into the previous one, find the one that works. If you'd like to explore with me, start to stretch that left foot out away from the body. You can still keep a bend in the knee. You might even roll that inner thigh down toward the blanket. Maybe you linger here. You continue to soften. You notice the sensations that arise. Never searching for pain. In fact, backing out away from pain. Practicing this concept of ahimsa, loving kindness, non-harm to yourself in this moment. And remembering as we shift into a variation, you can stay here and go back to that left bent knee. You could explore how would it feel to slide the forearms down and press into them, lifting up into a little variation of Sphinx and half frog. Noticing what it does to you. noticing the voices in the mind, inviting them to be filled with love. In that space, love and stillness, follow 5 final rounds of breath. And as your 5th breath escapes, you can lower the torso first, or you can start to bend that left knee, shifting the left leg back long in line with the spine. We'll take the arms out wide, legs wide, lower back down to the mat. Little prone or belly side star shape. Notice what shows up in the rebound. The size, the moans, the colors, the taste, the sensations. And then shifting awareness back into the legs. We'll bring them a little bit closer together. Float the feet up toward the ceiling. And welcome that swaying or the circles through the legs again. Go a little bit slower than you want, inviting this movement to feel almost as a massage, not just for the physical body, but for you, your spirit, your essence, your energy. Perhaps remembering to take those movements in both directions. And then as you feel complete, feet find the floor again, hands coming closer. We'll move into that half frog on the other side, right leg. The knee stretches out away from the body. Torso, arms, neck, all comfortable. And settle in again. Lingering. Inviting the body to release the stress, to let go of it. Inviting any negative reactions to shift out, maybe following the exhales. We notice whatever arises in that stillness. And we invite ourselves to cover it with kindness, to refill our cup. To change that second arrow from suffering into kindness and mercy, compassion. Knowing that you are welcome to stay just as you are. And maybe you explore how would it feel to extend that right leg away more. Whichever variation you choose, you soften again. You choose stillness. You let time wash over you. Choosing again to stay, to bend the right knee, or maybe slide the forearms forward, starting to press into the forearms. Always knowing when you arrive, you can back out, you can linger. Maybe mulling over that saying from the Buddhist tradition that when we suffer misfortune, two different arrows fly. The first arrow is the actual event. And the second arrow is our reaction, our story to that first arrow. Remembering first arrows are unavoidable. That's life, that's adulting. But we have the power to change the direction of the second arrow. We get to choose the story, the reaction. Do you choose a bit of graciousness, toward your life. A bit of kindness. A whole lot of compassion. Inviting the body to marinate in that compassion for 5 more rounds of breath. And as your 5th breath escapes, you start to bend that right leg, sliding it back in line with the spine, lowering down, returning to that prone star, widening, the arms widening, the legs. Noticing that second arrow, the reaction to the shape. Maybe this time the knees and the legs stay wide as you float the feet up to the ceiling. And return once more to that swaying or the circles of the feet. And you notice how this feels. Eventually, as your body is ready, we'll continue some movement in tabletop. Slide the hands in, release the toes, press up. Hands in table shape, hands and knees to the mat. Inviting the hips to make circles. Maybe you send hips back toward the heels and then over to one side and around to the other. Maybe you throw in some movement through the spine, letting the spine around, arc as you move in these circles. And taking those circles in the other direction. Our next shape will be dragonfly. A lot of people like to rotate to face the long edge of the mat rather than the short edges. Maybe even scooting to the back so that your feet have a place to land on the mat. Legs can be both extended out in that V shape. And sometimes this is really challenging. If you'd like to take a half dragonfly, just bend one knee in. Feel free to prop up underneath the hips with a little blanket. You can reach for the bolster. We're going to start first with a twist. Roll the belly toward one leg and walk the hands down the leg. Invite the body to round the spine, maybe even the chin tucks. Always knowing that you control the depth of your shape. We want to feel sensation, but not be overpowered by sensation. We want it to be just right. You might notice as time passes, gravity draws us closer and closer to the leg. You might notice that the leg feels a million miles away. Back to that idea of kindness. Filling yourself up. Marinating in the kindness, the compassion. For 5 more rounds of breath. As your 5th breath escapes, hands are going to walk towards you, lifting the body upright, pausing in the middle as you unravel the spine. We'll move our props, your bolster, your block for the head, whatever you're bringing over to the other leg. Start to walk the hands down the sides of those legs, bringing the belly toward the thigh. Bringing the props along to the right. Noticing any subtle shifts, movements, twitches. Beginning to follow those 5 final rounds of breath here. Anticipating the transition as that 5th breath escapes. Palms plant, arms activate as we lift up and outright. Unraveling the spine, pausing in the center. If you chose a half dragonfly, bending one knee, now's a great time to switch the leg out. And then walk the hands forward, sending the spine down in between the legs. Again, gathering up any props that might support the chest or the head. Could be a blanket, a bolster, a block. It could even be the hands themselves. So I soften up and out over space. Remembering the kindness, the compassion that we draw into ourselves. As we follow those 5 final rounds of breath. Fifth breath escapes. And plant the palm. Activate the arms. Lift up and outright. Pausing at the top. Letting the spine get reacclimated. Our next shape will be waterfall. You can bring a bolster or a block. I have a little rolled up blanket. Just gonna make sure it's nearby my hands before I gather my legs together slowly. We've been here for over 10 minutes. Bending at the knees. Maybe pausing and just letting the body drape over the legs. Noticing any sighs or moans, groans. Shifts, surges within the body. And then we'll make our way into that waterfall shape, sending feet to one short edge of the mat, head to the other. If you're using a bolster, I like to sit on the bolster first. If you're on a block, then lower the body down. That prop's gonna go underneath the flat part of the hips. You might feel the bum cheeks roll off the far away edge. You might feel a little curve in the low back. You can always stay with the knees bent, but it might feel really good to explore extending the legs out. And letting the arms find comfort and ease wherever they land, wherever it feels good in your body. And then in this shape, remember again, the concept of drawing kindness in. I'll guide you through a short little meditation. You're welcome to join me. If you'd rather not, just pay attention to the breath. Pay attention to the sensations. This Tonglen meditation is about giving and receiving, absorbing the pain and the suffering of the people or situations in our life, and then sending them good wishes of healing, health, and energy. It moves us away from avoiding difficulties towards absorbing them. Through the Tonglen, we learn compassion and empathy on the inhale. And on the exhale, we send that positive energy out into the world. So in your stillness, simply take a few breaths in and out. And then bring to mind a person who is not at ease. Maybe you know them. Perhaps it's a person you pass on the street. Or maybe it's someone you've never met. If you prefer, you can always turn your attention toward an animal or the environment. And then connecting the breath to the vision. As you breathe in, visualize that you're drawing the negative energy, their pain, their hardship inward. As you breathe out, imagine you are sending warmth, light, and positivity to that recipient. Drawing their negative energy inwards. Sending the warmth, the light, the positivity out. Following that pattern for a few more rounds of breath. And then releasing the meditation. Letting the breath move naturally in and out. Maybe imagining that vision, that person, the outline of them fading away from the mind. The legs are long and extended. Start to bend the knee. Sliding the heels towards your bum. And pressing the soles of the feet into the mat, lifting the hips. You can move that prop off to the side. You could slide it underneath the legs as we settle into Shavasana, that final resting pose. Bringing along any extra comfort you might desire. A blanket over the body, support under the head. Take the first couple of breaths here, drawing in loving kindness, letting go any remaining tensions that you might hold in your own body. Eventually releasing that technique, that breath, and surrendering to the stillness, to the quiet. Following by final rounds of breath. And as your fifth breath escapes, adding movement through fingers and toes, moving into ankles and wrists, extending the arms alongside the head, full body stretch. And then releasing the arms, starting to bend the knees. You might slide any prop you used out of the way as you roll on to one side or the other. Pausing in your seed pose, remembering this concept of ahimsa, nonviolence, offering that not just to other people, but first offering it to yourself. Take that hand in front of the chest, lean a little bit in towards it as you press yourself up to sit. We'll meet in any comfortable seated shape. Resting with hands on the lap, or maybe you circle them out and up. Sliding the hands down the midline, pausing in that Anjali Mudra. Prayer hands. A moment of gratitude together here. from my heart to yours. Namaste.